Trump has instituted a 5-step economic plan to sabotage the economy. This is an in-depth for TikTok analysis, so settle in for a few minutes. So what he's doing: shrinking the labor force, cutting off international trade, destabilizing the financial system, weakening core institutions, and consolidating wealth and power. So step one, shrinking the labor force. Trump is deliberately creating worker shortages, removing millions of undocumented workers from farms, construction sites, hotels, and restaurants. Undocumented workers make up roughly half, yes, half of agricultural workers. And Trump knows this and what it will do to the food supply. Food is rotting in the fields with no one to harvest the crops. Housing construction has stalled, raising prices nationwide. Hospitality and tourism sectors face record staffing crisis. The result? Food shortages, higher prices, supply chain disruption. Now he's attacking legal immigration. The $100,000 H-1B visa fee makes it nearly impossible for tech companies to hire skilled workers. Tech will move to India, Canada, and Europe, leaving the US behind. Restricting student visas cuts off a future talent pipeline in medicine, science, and engineering. The goal: make the US businesses struggle to operate, forcing closures and driving up consumer prices. Number two, cut off international trade. Trump's trade policies isolate America from the global markets, hurting exports and consumers at the same time. Tariffs on imports raise everyday prices for goods. Retaliatory tariffs by other nations then block U.S. exports, which have devastating effects on farmers and manufacturers. Pulling out of agreements like the TPP and threatening NAFTA partners pushes allies towards China's RCEP, the EU, MESCOR, and all other non-U.S. trading blocs, leaving the U.S. isolated. Allies like Japan, South Korea, and Australia now trade more with China than with America. The goal: collapse export-driven industries while raising domestic costs, creating economic desperation. Number three, destabilize the financial system. Trump is undermining the foundations of the US dollar, which underpins the entire global economy. Publicly attacking and threatening to replace Fed officials destroys market confidence. Businesses can't plan or borrow when they fear politically driven interest rates. Trump has openly suggested renegotiating or defaulting on US debt, a move that would send global markets into chaos. And as US reserve currency status weakens, inflation will skyrocket and retirement savings will evaporate. Given tax cuts for billionaires and corporations with no offset will balloon the national debt and raise borrowing costs. Goal: trigger financial panic, erode trust in the dollar, and push global investors to abandon the US. Step four, weaken the core institutions. Strong economies require stable, predictable institutions, and Trump is actively dismantling them in the US. And he's turning courts and regulators into partisan tools, which scares investors and discourages entrepreneurship. Businesses need neutral enforcement of contracts to function. Trump destroys that trust. Slashing budgets and hollowing out expertise in the Department of Commerce and the State Department and regulatory agencies, the U.S. has become incapable of coordinating trade policy or negotiating deals, leaving foreign rivals with the upper hand. The goal: turn government into an unreliable, unpredictable force, discouraging growth and making citizens dependent on Trump for stability. And the final step: consolidating wealth and power for himself. Once the system collapses, Trump and his allies seize control of what's left. As farms, factories, and businesses fail, Trump-aligned billionaires buy them at dollars on the penny, just like Russian oligarchs after the Soviet collapse. Trump deregulates industries for corporations while leaving consumers unprotected, maximizing profits for his allies. With ordinary Americans broke and scared, they accept authoritarian control in exchange for the illusion of order. The ultra-rich rule as oligarchs with Trump as the figurehead. His goal: create a Russian-style oligarchy where wealth and power are concentrated among a handful of loyal insiders. Individually, these actions look like bad policies or political incompetence, but together they form a clear pattern of economic sabotage. Shrink the labor force so industries collapse, cut off international trade to isolate the US and destroy exports, destabilize the financial system to trigger a panic, weaken core institutions so no one can resist, consolidate wealth and power into the hands of Trump and his allies. This is the blueprint for authoritarian takeover. And quite quickly, America won't have a democracy. It will have a playground for oligarchs. And what are Americans doing about this? Tell me, because I don't know.